In the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean sits a massive, active shield volcano. Clinging to a tiny coastal plain on its edge is Edinburgh of the Seven Seas, the most geographically isolated human settlement on Earth. Looking at this map of the South Atlantic, you can see the vast empty space surrounding the island. The nearest inhabited land is St. Helena, which is 2,430 kilometers to the north. If you head east, the coast of South Africa is over 2,800 kilometers away. And because there is no airport or landing strip carved into the rock, the only way across that water is by sea. A fishing vessel from Cape Town makes the journey 8 times a year, a voyage taking at least a week depending on the swell. Even if you make it across the ocean, the island greets you with a formidable wall of rock. Massive sheer cliffs rise 600 meters straight out of the water, constantly battered by the roaring 40s, a westerly wind system that funnels relentless storms and volatile squalls directly into the coastline. This combination of distance, weather, and topography creates a natural fortress, making the settlement one of the most difficult places to reach in the modern world. In October 1961, the earth beneath that fortress began to shake. The dormant volcano that gave the settlement its foundation suddenly erupted. A new volcanic cone fractured the ground, spewing ash and thick lava just a few hundred yards from the villagers' homes, and threatening to swallow their vital crop fields. The entire population of 264 people was forced into an emergency evacuation. They abandoned the only homes they had ever known and boarded ships to sail back across the turbulent Atlantic. They eventually landed in the United Kingdom, thrust abruptly into the complex reality of 1960s Britain. For a community used to a quiet, cooperative, non-cash economy, the sudden exposure to dense traffic, televisions, and a commercialized society was completely alien. Many expected they would trade the harsh conditions of their isolated rock for the comforts of the modern world. But when given the choice in 1963, the islanders voted overwhelmingly to pack up their bags, leave the UK, and sail right back. Why would an entire town willingly walk away from modern civilization, rejecting a life of convenience to return to a freezing, dangerous strip of volcanic rock? To understand their decision, we have to look at how humans ended up there in the first place. The original settlement was an accident of geopolitical paranoia. In 1816, the British Empire annexed the archipelago and established a military outpost to stop the French from using it as a staging ground to rescue Napoleon Bonaparte, who was exiled on nearby St. Helena. The threat of a Napoleonic escape never materialized, so a year later, the British ordered the garrison to withdraw. But a Scottish corporal named William Glass requested permission to stay behind with his family, and was eventually joined by a few other soldiers. Over the following decades, that small group was joined by a trickle of shipwrecked mariners and whalers. Recognizing that an isolated community of bachelors wouldn't last, they petitioned a passing ship's captain to bring wives from St. Helena, forming the narrow foundation of their population. This family tree shows the resulting genetic bottleneck. We can see how the diverse origins of those early settlers funneled down until today, the entire settlement is dominated by just 7 surnames. Living in such an unforgiving environment meant there was no room for strict hierarchies or individual hoarding. Out of sheer necessity, these survivors forged a rigidly egalitarian society, where labor and resources had to be shared. What started as a temporary military outpost evolved into an interdependent microsociety. When you are thousands of miles from help, survival demands total cooperation. Today, the settlement balances global trade with that deeply ingrained self-sufficiency. The island operates a commercial processing factory that prepares the Tristan rock lobster, a delicacy, for export to international markets. That single fishing industry is the crucial economic engine for the island. It brings in the cash required to import diesel fuel, essential medicines, and manufactured goods from the mainland. But away from the factory, daily survival relies on an older system. As you can see in this photograph, vast networks of green communal farming plots sit right alongside the village. Every family maintains their own potato patch in a non-cash subsistence farming model. Because there are so few people, labor is heavily divided. Almost every resident holds a formal job at the lobster factory or in local government, while simultaneously working as a farmer, a builder, and a mechanic. Tristan da Cunha survives by operating a unique hybrid system. They leverage a modern export economy to pay for the specific tools and fuel they need to maintain a 19th century farming lifestyle. In the 1960s, the islanders chose to leave Britain for a place where people don't lock their doors and car keys are often left in the ignition. They traded modern convenience for a level of community safety that cities struggle to replicate. In a community where everyone is a lifelong neighbor, childcare is a shared, settlement-wide responsibility. This reality of communal trust means that the concept of crime is virtually non-existent. Because this specific social harmony is so fragile, it is protected by a strict zero immigration policy. Outsiders looking to escape the modern world cannot move there. Even fully fledged UK citizens are barred from buying land or establishing residency, unless they were born on the island, or in rare cases gain the explicit approval of the island council. This chart tracking the population over the last several years reveals the consequence of such a closed-loop system. The number of residents has steadily declined, from a high of nearly 300 in 2016 down to fewer than 250 people today, leaving an aging demographic. It presents a tragic paradox. The extreme geographic isolation but forged this peaceful, crime-free society, and the strict rules required to protect it are the exact mechanisms guaranteeing that the settlement will eventually fade away.